Rebels collectors, and welcome to another Bossk's Bounty video, and welcome to episode 229 of Ask Bossk Bounty. This is the weekly Q&A series that drops every Sunday, where I take your questions from the comment section below and do my best to answer them. So if you do have a question for next week's episode and you want to be featured in the video, be sure to leave that question in the comment section of this video. And as I said, hopefully you'll be featured next week. This week's episode is 229, therefore it is brought to you by VC229, which is Migs Mayfeld. A little bit of controversy when this figure was first released because there was an error on the figure. It had the red arm. Essentially, this figure is exactly the same as the Din Djarin, both great figures, but they used the exact same body as the Din Djarin, which included the red rank insignia on that arm, but they did correct it eventually, and this version here is the corrected version. I think this is the rarer of the two. I think there was more with the red arm, especially over here in the UK. The green arm one was pretty hard to get hold of, and I think my buddy Gary Moore was the guy that ended up being the saviour for me on that occasion and sent over a couple with the green arm for me. So that is the green arm one. So that is the story behind Migs Mayfeld from The Mandalorian, and he is this week's sponsor of Ask Bossk Bounty. One other thing before we get on with the questions, I just want to say a huge thank you to Patreon supporter and friend Jeff Russell, who kindly sent me this in the post. This arrived to my PO box. This is Garandan, and it's a vintage style Garandan. I believe this is a Stan Solo figure. So it's Garandan, made it in the vintage style, vintage Kenner style, and it is awesome. And of course, you know, with the whole Cantina backing and everything that we've had most recently, this was a very on point figure to receive in the post. So thank you so much, Jeff. I really do appreciate it. Garandan is one of my favourite characters. He is one that I would love for them to do in the vintage collection, an updated modern version. But this one is very, very cool, and I do collect the Kenner figures, and this one will go very nicely with those. So thank you so much once again, Jeff. You are super generous, and I really do appreciate it, buddy. So thank you. With all that being said, if you do happen to enjoy this episode, please leave a like down below, subscribe if you're new, and we're going to get straight onto the first question. Stephen Angel says, "Hey Bossk, hope all is well. Excited that the Cantina is actually happening. I really can't believe they're doing it. My question for next week is, just picked up the Lego set which Keller and Beck is in, and hadn't occurred to me that if you pretty much combine the Jedi Master Soul figure and the final dual Obi-Wan with some additional detailing on the tunic and a new head, that's a new Jedi they could put on a card and it'd be totally awesome, I think. What's a quick top 3 Jedi you want to see made now that it seems they have the means?" Well, you're absolutely right. Of course, we do have a few new Jedi sculpts in that new Obi-Wan that was included in the dual and the Jedi Master Soul, which I have reviewed. Some people in the community might tell you that those wouldn't be fit for prequel era Jedis. I'm not 100% sure on that myself. I'm pretty sure they could kit bash something out of, you know, a mix of those. But in terms of the Jedis that I would like them to do, the number one Jedi that I would love for them to do is Ki-Adi-Mundi from Revenge of the Sith. Basically very much like the one that the Black series have. I absolutely love the look of that figure. I've seen it in person. It really is a great figure. So that's definitely one that I would like them to do. Keller and Beck for me is up there on Jedis that I would like to see them do in the vintage collection. I think he would make a really good figure, so maybe they'll do that one in the future. And then for me, I think it's got to be an all new Anakin from Revenge of the Sith. That for me is a Jedi that we desperately need. I'm not happy with the one that we have, and I think his appearance in Ahsoka and things like that, we could definitely do with one of those. Mr. AJ Mann says, "Hi Bossk, love the video. As always, a highlight to my Sunday evenings. Question for next week, all the talk of supporting the Cantina with aliens, etc. Well, what about support for the Ghost? Aside from different versions of the crew, which are characters we are already getting with the Ghost, there has been zero mention of any new characters from Rebels. Do you think we are likely to see more Rebels figures next year, or was the Rebels side of TVC a one and done with the Ghost? So much potential for new figures from Rebels. Off the top of my head, Agent Kallus, Fifth Brother, Seventh Sister, Old Maul, Old Rex, Ahsoka would be great to display with Jules, and Vader to recreate the end of their fight in Season 2. So yes, I totally agree with you. More Rebels figures would be nice, and I don't think they're done with it yet. I'm pretty sure we'll get some more Rebels figures. I do have to disagree with one of those, though, with Vader. I really don't want a animated style Vader from Rebels. I think if you want to recreate Vader from Rebels, then the A New Hope version that we've got recently would probably be your best bet at recreating that scene. I'm not really into sort of animated style characters, and if I'm brutally honest, I didn't really like the look of Vader in that show. But some of the others that you've mentioned there, like Agent Callus and things like that, I can see them doing those eventually, 100%. Now that we've got the actual crew. Intergalactic Brick says, will the Sabine and Chopper 2-pack and the Jabba set be restocked ready to ship, or were they pre-order exclusives? The pre-orders are currently sold out and I cancelled my Sabine and Chopper pre-order in favour of the newest clone 4-pack. So unfortunately, yeah, I think the Sabine and Chopper 2-pack was one of those pre-order exclusives. You had to buy it then. No idea if they're going to be doing any extra at the time. I doubt it. As for the Jabba set, I honestly can't remember the details behind that. I can't remember if that's one of those ones that will be available at the time that it ships in like Disney parks and things like that. That might be the E-Wing, thinking about it now. Pretty sure that the E-Wing was definitely a, you know, pre-order exclusive, but it will be available in limited quantities at Disney parks and on Shop Disney, I think. That might be the case for the Jabba set as well, but please don't hold me to that. John Rosum says, thank you for another great episode. Question for next week. What do you expect to see revealed pipelined at SDCC, and what do you hope to see? I'm assuming we'll get reveals of the new Ahsoka, Mandalorian and Bo-Katan figures, and hopefully the Blurg. I also suspect we'll find out what VC229 is. I'm assuming another character from the Acolyte. I'm hoping we'll see pipeline figures for Baylan and Shin, and fingers crossed the Bad Batch, and maybe even a sneak peek at Skeleton Crew. Well, I have no idea if we'll see a sneak peek of anything from Skeleton Crew, because I would imagine that we'll have to see a trailer beforehand. Will there be a trailer for Skeleton Crew at SDCC? I have no idea. We do know that it was, you know, postponed until the end of the year, or delayed, whatever you want to call it. What do I expect to see or hope to see at SDCC? A few things that you've mentioned there. I would imagine that we'll see some of the figures that have already been pipelined, like Ahsoka the White, possibly the Blurg, maybe even the playset, the Mandalorian hallway playset, things like that. They did say that none of it is going to be returned to Tatooine, if I remember correctly, which kind of rules out Cobb Vanth, which is a bit of a shame, because we are due to see the deluxe Cobb Vanth that they've pipelined. So that's kind of what I feel they will reveal, some of the things that have already been pipelined. They usually do reveal something that hasn't been pipelined, which would be nice, so a nice surprise. And hopefully we're going to be getting a exclusive for SDCC, a TVC exclusive, so, you know, maybe that will get revealed there, or maybe just before. We'll have to wait and see. In terms of pipelines, yeah, hopefully, I mean, it'd be great if they did, you know, pipeline some 2025 figures, and hopefully, you know, characters like Baylan and Shin are going to be included in there, because they are highly requested figures that everyone seems to be going on a lot about. You know, why haven't we got those already, kind of thing. The Black Series have got them, so hopefully we'll see some stuff from early next year as well, which would be great. Mega Man Media says, question for next week, how would you feel about HasLab that has figure only focus, 8 figures for X amount of dollars, that are only released via the HasLab, Cantina patrons, Jabba's crew, Andor's prison mates, etc. So I've always been behind the idea of, you know, dream figure packs, because at the end of the day, we're not getting enough figures out, you know, newly tooled figures to satisfy everybody's wants and needs in the line. That is abundantly clear. So I've always been behind the sort of idea, but I feel that if they were to do it, people will be put off by the price. I can't see them doing, you know, 8 figures for $16.99 each. It just kind of just doesn't work like that. So I don't think they'll do it. I wish that they would, because essentially we're getting a Cantina. It would have been great if we had had like an 8-figure pack, or even a 6-figure pack maybe, to go alongside it. That would have been awesome. I've got to say, I wouldn't be too up for a HasLab of Andor's prison mates though, buddy. To me, that would be a pretty boring figure in itself, but if you had like 6 of his team all in the same outfit, yeah, definitely not a HasLab, buddy. Collect says, great vid as always. My question for next week, if Star Wars didn't exist, which 80s franchise would you have gravitated to collecting, especially with all the great lines coming back these past few years? I could see myself buying some of them. Personally, I think I would have went Masters of the Universe, because of the variety of characters and nostalgia of my after school episodes and Saturday mornings. Well, to be honest, buddy, I have dipped my toe in other lines. For example, Action Force stroke G.I. Joe, until Hasbro, you know, decided to stop doing O-ring 3.75 inch G.I. Joes. That's nipped that in the bud. And I also used to like G1 Transformers when I was a kid. I think if Star Wars didn't exist, that's probably what I would collect now. I was really big into it as a kid in, you know, 85 onwards sort of thing. But I'm not too keen on all of the new Transformers. I've got to be honest, I think they're a bit cheaply made. They're all really plasticky. Whereas, as you probably know, the G1 Transformers were often die cast. They were really, really quality toys. And I used to love them. And I do have a couple of them. But it's not something that I can really get into. They're just far too expensive with, you know, especially with everything else that I collect in terms of Star Wars. Stephen Novak says, hi Tim, well the Cantina got backed but fell one tier short, failing to unlock Ali El Shush. My question is, do you think having figures as stretch goals are holding back these HasLabs? The Razor Crest had 5 stretch goals and no problem reaching them. Meanwhile, the Ghost and the Cantina was all figures for stretch goals and struggled to meet them all or fall short. It seems to me having figures as goals is just laziness on Hasbro's count, not using any imagination. Keep up the great videos and see you on the next one. No, I've got to say I don't think that, buddy. I think the Ghost hit in the end, was it 23,000, which was probably 5,000 over the last tier of whatever figure that was. Was it Zeb, I think, at 17,000? I personally feel that the Cantina not hitting the 17,000 mark isn't down to any one thing. There was lots of different reasons behind it, I believe. You know, one of them being that it was a playset and people have been used to sort of big, large vehicles as HasLabs. There was also the timing of it, ending on a holiday. There's lots of different reasons that I'm not going to go into fully right now. But essentially, I think, you know, the figures being the goals, I don't think that's one of the reasons, no. Because I think that is actually a good thing. It entices the carded collector to really push to get, you know, that final figure on card, which unfortunately we didn't hit this time around. But no, I don't think that's the one and only factor, and it certainly didn't hold back the Ghost. Scott Borum says, hey BB, question for next week. Actually, 2 questions. Firstly, the E-Wing will be out by the end of the year, hopefully with the Lieutenant Callahan pilot. Do you see Hasbro releasing any ships, vehicles or playsets in the near future? If so, what do you think they could be? Also, Hasbro has said that Wuha and the Tonica sisters are exclusives to the Cantina, but do you see them eventually releasing them individually as they are well sought after figures? Thanks for all you do for the collecting community. I've got to say, I think Wuha and the Tonica sisters won't be released outside of the Cantina. They pretty much said that. They did sort of say it, you know, there's no current plans, but I honestly believe those 3 are different to Greedo and Nabran Leeds. I think those 2 will get on different card backs. The other 3, you know, they're going to kind of stick to their word that those are exclusive to the Cantina. If they change their minds, it'll be a very long time before they do that. That's just my opinion on it, though. In terms of the E-Wing, yes, I do believe it will be out by the end of the year, and the figure that's included is the droid. Lieutenant Callahan, as far as I'm aware, is going to be 2025, so you won't be able to get that figure at the same time as the E-Wing. That's my understanding on it anyway. And will Hasbro be releasing any other ships, vehicles or playsets? Obviously, we've got the Mandalorian hallway playset. I'm sure there'll be other things in the future, but it's just not something that we know about right now. Blake Kemp says, hey Tim, question for next week. Is there going to be one less wave of figures this year? I read somewhere there's only 2 figures to be pipeline revealed for the remainder of the year. Looking at your checklist and adding to what's been revealed, it looks like there's one less wave. Cheers, mate. No, I think we're still going to be getting the Acolyte wave, which nobody has in hand yet, and then there'll be one more wave on top of that, which I think makes 6 waves. In that wave will be included characters that they've pipelined, I believe, like Ahsoka the White, the Thrawn, and maybe the delayed Skeleton Crew figures, because everybody knows now that that show was delayed from early 2024 to late 2024, so maybe they had to shift around the figures as well. And you know, whatever they had lined up for the Skeleton Crew potentially will be in the final wave of the year. It's not guaranteed, but that's just my thoughts around it. You may have seen a Lego set that was revealed or leaked recently from the Skeleton Crew, and there was like a young Max Rebo, whatever species that is, which I thought was pretty cool. So imagine if they made a figure of that. That'd be pretty awesome. James Ringland says, hey BB, love the show as usual. Question for next week revolves around something I noticed about the 4 characters Hasbro pipeline during the HasLab Cantina reveal livestream last month. They all have something in common. Ben, Luke, Han and Chewie were all released by Kenner in alternative card art when the vintage Kenner line got to the Return of the Jedi. In addition to the new figures and retool for Chewie on their classic card backs, how about a 4-pack release of them with their alternative art for an exclusive Amazon, maybe, since they seem to like those 4-packs. Not sure if it would exactly double the sales of the figures, but it would further reward Hasbro's new sculpts. Yeah, you're absolutely right. All 4 of those figures have had an alternative card, and I made a whole video ages ago now about these alternative card backs. And me personally, what I would like to see them do for these is not necessarily just straight repack Han and Luke onto those card backs. I would like to make them scene specific for those card backs. So both of those card backs for Han and Luke both have their Stormtrooper belts on. So for me, I feel that they could retool the new Han and Luke with a Stormtrooper belt and stick them on those two card backs. That would be awesome. The Ben Kenobi card back, the Return of the Jedi version, is still obviously an image from A New Hope. It's just a much better image all round, and I would like them both basically. And the Chewie, it is going to be a different Chewie head because that will be a Return of the Jedi head, but you know, we definitely need that card back. I really do want that card back. I think they released it in the Black Series, didn't they, for the 40th anniversary. Super jealous of that. But I would love the Return of the Jedi version of Chewie on that card back. RD Evans says, question, of all the changes made to the original trilogy films over the years, which do you think is the best and what do you think is the worst? For me, adding the windows on Cloud City, enhancing the look of Bespin is the best, and cliche as it is, Greedo shooting first is the worst, although the scene where Han steps on Jabba's tail is embarrassingly bad. So first of all, I've got to say, overall, I don't like many of the changes, full stop. I think the best ones are probably the ones that they added to the Battle of Yavin. Some of those extra X-Wing scenes enhanced it, basically. But for me, the worst always used to be the Vader, you know, no, I really didn't like that. And of course, you've got all of that CGI nonsense on the Jabba sail barge with the different song and things like that. I really didn't like that. But yeah, mentioning Greedo, I actually watched the Cantina scene because I was obviously looking at the Cantina aliens and things like that with the HasLab, and the version that they've got on Disney Plus where he says McClunky is just weird. Why would you do that to it? I really don't know. It just looks odd. Danikin says, hello there, question for next week. What do you think about a pod racer HasLab? Both Sebulba and Anakin's pods done with vintage style, figures included, of course. I know they aren't exactly huge, but both of them together, done properly, could be pretty awesome. I think they would be pretty awesome, and it would be a great way to get both Sebulba and Anakin in the line. Two figures that I do want in the line. Just not too sure if it would be a great HasLab, even if they were, you know, two together. I feel I'd want to buy those separately, you know, just as a normal sort of maybe Hasbro Pulse exclusive or something like that, if they can't get them into retail. Yeah, I'm not too sure if it's HasLab worthy necessarily, but two great ideas anyway, because I do want those two figures. Patreon supporter and good friend of mine, Keith Guppy, says, hi mate, loving the videos as always. So on my channel, I'm going through the 40 or so modern lines and trying to work out how much it costs to get each complete line. So my question is, what's your guess on the TVC line to date? I will put in the hard hours soon to give you an accurate answer, but interested to have your best guess. Okay, so first of all, Keith does have a channel. It's awesome, and he's got an amazing collection, so check him out if you have a chance. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description below. But to answer your question, buddy, how much would it cost to get the whole line of TVC? Well, I'm not going to talk about vehicles and playsets because that would just get way out of hand. I wouldn't be able to work it out, but just in terms of figures. So if we've had 350 figures, and I would say that they probably average around £40 each, because a lot of TVC 1.0 go for 60, 70, 80, 100, some go for 150. You've got a few exclusives in there which go for even more, and then you have TVC 2.0, which most of them I guess you can still get for retail, so I'm going to average it out at about 40. So if you've got 350 figures, what's that, 14,000? That can't be right, can it? 14,000. That's crazy when you think about it. Patreon supporter Marky D says, hi Bossk, question for next week. I know you've discussed the Ring of Death scuffing on TVC card backs, but I fear Hasbro is never ever going to do anything about it. I just received multiple figures of the latest New Hope wave featuring Leia, R2, Vader, X-Wing, Luke and Stormtrooper, and every single one of them, 15 plus figures, is damaged with the Ring of Death scuffing. My carded collection is taking a beating now for close to 2 years with this problem, completely ruining the whole purpose of maintaining a carded collection. Is it time the community rises up and gets very vocal with campaigns, videos directed towards Hasbro, fan site articles detailing the problem, fan petitions, whatever, attempts to get Hasbro to once and for all address the issue and make corrections to the packaging? How hard can it be to increase the size of the packaging box by a few centimeters to give the cards some breathing room? I'm tired of chasing cleaner cards at Target and or Walmart because those don't exist either. Help me, Bossk, you're my only hope. Well, you know, I'm not too sure what else we could do. I mean, I've brought it up loads of times. They even had one of the damaged cards in their own cabinet at last year's SDCC, I seem to remember. So they know it happens. You've got Star Action Figures talking about it on their Facebook page all the time. And I think more people are talking about it right now because you're right. This most recent wave, the A New Hope wave, which is a terrible wave for it to happen to, really, because of, you know, the fact that you've got some original 96 cardbacks there with the Hildebrand logo moved and all that kind of good stuff. But you've got that bubble rub, or ring of death as we like to call it. So I feel that people are being vocal about it. Absolutely. I mean, just the other day I sent 3 back to Hasbro Pulse. I ordered 3, got 3, they were all damaged, and I sent them back and I told them exactly what was wrong with it. So they do know. It's just a case of maybe trying to track down where that problem is, because it's not all of them. I think it is about a third of the stock this time, so maybe it's just one particular factory. Who knows what the problem is, but you know, hopefully they're on it. And the best way to be vocal about it is get on social media and, you know, tag the right people in and all that kind of thing. But, you know, as I said, I've been pretty vocal about it myself. Zippo KLG says, hi BB, question for next week. With the pipeline reveal for the Forge set of The Mandalorian, do you think we can have a new tooling or updated armourer figure with soft goods shoulder piece like the Retro Collection line? I cannot think of another figure that can come with the set, and I would really love to have a new armourer with some extra accessories. So yeah, I mean, we don't know yet, do we, whether it will include an armourer? I know they've pipelined the Forge set, but I can't remember them saying, you know, which figure it will come packed in with. If it is a new armourer, I hope to dear God that it does have that soft good pelt on the back of her shoulders. I tried recreating that myself with one of my figures. I bought some like felt and stuff from some craft shop, and I ended up making an absolute mess. The hair was going everywhere and it just wasn't good at all. So I would prefer Hasbro to do it, and of course she'd probably need the new barbell hips as well. And does she have rocker ankles? I can't remember, but there she is. It would be great to have a new updated version of the armourer. Yeah, but you're right, apart from having a different coloured Mandalorian figure within that set, I can't really see any other characters that would be included apart from the armourer. Alright then guys, that's it for this week's episode. If you're wondering why all of these figures are lined up in front of you here, that is because I made a video the other day about my top 5 vintage collection figures for this year. So if you haven't checked out that video, please do so, and you'll find out, you know, who my top 5 are and who is the ultimate winner. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to leave your questions for next week's episode, and I want to thank my Patreon supporters and channel members as always, and a special thank you to Jeff Russell once again for sending me that awesome vintage style Garandan. I absolutely love it. Thanks for watching everybody, and we shall see you on the next one.